Okay, today's daf is, we're getting very close. Is it Kuf Ayin Daled today? What? We're up to Kuf Ayin Daled, and I think we got up to Kuf Ayin Daled from Aleph. Okay, so the last thing we discussed was the different types of Arevus there are. So the Mishnah discusses two types of Arevus. The Mishnah says if it's a regular case of Arevus, then a regular case of Arevus, then the halacha is you first have to go to the loiva, and then you go to the Arev. And if the Malva said Almanash she'efra mimisha erza, then he collects from the Arev, but only if the loiva doesn't have money. But if the loiva has money, if a loiva has nechasim, then you still have to go to the loiva first. That's a regular Arevus. What about an Arev Kabbalah, which we're going to see soon what that means? What about an Arev Kabbalah, which is a higher level of Arev? There, if the Malva said, I want to be able to collect from whoever first, then he can collect from the Kabbalah, even if the Loiva does have assets. And on that point, Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel argues and says that even in Arev Kabbalah, and even if you said, I want to collect from whoever I'd like to, you still have to go to the loiva first if the loiva has assets. So there's a very important tosfos here that goes through 5 different scenarios of an Arev and how the halacha would be. Perfect, thank you. Gewaltig. Zog the heilige tosfos on Kuf Ein Gimel and Beis. Oh, with this Gemara, it's geschmacker because the line that I'm looking for is in bold. The chamosh midos ba'arvos. So it's about, I guess, a little bit more than a third of the way down in the tosfos, in the skinny lines. You see it? The chamosh midos ba'arvos. So the chamosh midos ba'arvos. There's 5 scenarios. Echad hamalva al yidei arev. If someone lends money and there's a cosigner, v'loy asni mimisha erza efra. And the Malva didn't speak out that I want to be able to collect from whomever first. In that case, no matter what, no matter when, the Malva has to first go after the loiva. It doesn't matter if the loiva has nechasim, and when we say nechasim, we mean karka, which I know he has, so it's easy and it's available to take from. We have to start crafting, in court or such a thing where you have to declare any assets you have. If someone's coming after you, you have to find what he has. But a karka is simple and easy and it's ready for you. So whether or not the loiva has obvious nechasim or not, you first have to summon the loiva to best. And if there is no way to collect from the loiva because he's not complying, so then and only then, Michnas levesa shel Arev, then you can go after the Arev. That's a standard case of Arevus. Base, a standard case of Arevus with a twist. Im hisna mimisha ertzef. The Malva said it's a regular Arevus, but I want to be able to collect from whoever first. The ein loy nechasim leloiva. If the loiva does not have nechasim, what are nechasim? The Torah speaks out. Ainu karkois. It doesn't mean he doesn't have anything. It means he doesn't have land. Then nifra min Arev tchila. The Malva has the option to go straight to the Arev. Pirish im yirtza, lotin im Arev tchila. But he could go to the loiva as well if he prefers that. The im yirtza yitzveh min loiva tchila. Kidarminon im amar misha ertza efra yifra min Arev. Shema mina de berutzoin hamalva talimilsa. The Malva has the option. So even if he says misha ertza efra, it doesn't mean he has to go to the Arev if he cannot find karka. He could still go to the loiva and maybe try to find something that the loiva would have. Gimel, the third scenario is v'myesh loy nechasim leloiva. If the loiva has nechasim and he also said v'misha ertza efra, afilu asni nifra min haloiva tchila. If you said v'misha ertza efra and we know for sure the loiva has properties, then you still have to go to the loiva first. Dalet, the fourth scenario. V'kablan. What is an Arev kablan? The hainu 10 loy v'ani noisin loch. The Arev tells the Malva, he tells Reuven, you give money to Shimon, I'll pay you back. So you're accepting upon yourself that it's chayv. You're not stop being an Arev. You're telling the Malva, you're creating a direct relationship with the Malva. I'm going to pay it back. So then ben yeshloi nechosim leloiva, ben ein loi still nifram in the Arev tchila. The Malva has a right to go straight to the Arev. That's of course not like Reb Shimon ben Gamliel. That's like the Chachamim. And hey, the final case is noisav and noisim biyad. Noisav and noisim biyad is Reuven, don't give Shimon the money. I'm the Arev Levi, give me the money. And then I turn that money over to Shimon. Now, Shimon doesn't even have a shaykhis over here because Shimon didn't borrow anything from Reuven. The Arev Kablin or the Noisav and Noisim Biyad, Levi was the one who borrowed the money from Reuven, and then he created a secondary relationship where he lent it now to Shimon, right? So there, Yifrim in the Arev, Aloiv and Aloiv. There, the Malva has to go to the Arev and not to the Loiva. There's zero relationship between the Malva and the Loiva. However, as a backstop, in Loimata Shum Lehifara, what's the Zayin? So any asset. Zayin is Loimata Shum Dovar. Lehifara min Arev, then Chodra Loiva. How can it go to the Loiva? What shaykhis does Reuven have with the Loiva? Midrab Nasan, because of Shibud Midrab Nasan. The Loiva, who Shimon owes the Arev Kabbalah money now, who would be Levi, and Levi owes Reuven money, so through Shibud Midrab Nasan, if there's no money to collect from the Arev, then the Malva can go straight to the Loiva. The Kamal Kavasai, Afilu B'Vachoiv, the Alma. So now we know how Arevis works. Tosh discussed as well, which is going to come up later. All types of Arevin require a kinyan to be mechayiv the Arev. Bar mikablon the Arev b'shas matan mois. Unless it's b'shas matan mois, if it's at the time of the Nesina, I guess being there and accepting is good enough for the kinyan. The kablon, like Tosh has already said, is the hainu tein loy vani etin loch. Inami or she'eni maskalosh navah. The Gemara is going to get into the different nuances of what makes it into a kabbalah or not. Okay, so those are the 5 scenarios of Arevus that the Tosfos lays out for us. Zok der Heilige Gemara weiter. On the top of Kuf Ayin Dalet Amar Aleph. Amar Rabba Bar Chana Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Kol mokom shoshona Rab Shimon ben Gamliel Mishnah Seinu. Anytime we learn a Mishnah in which Rab Shimon ben Gamliel is quoted, halacha kamoisai, we always paskum like him, except for 3 exceptions, of which our Mishnah is one of the exceptions. Chutzme Arev, which is our Mishnah over here. Sidain is a case we had earlier in the Masechta, where there was brothers that were yashining an estate, a piece of property, and one of the brothers happened to have on his own an adjacent property. So al Dini de Bar Metzra, he said, when you're splitting up the property, give me the chelik of my father's property that's closest to my property. And they said, no, we prefer that piece of property. We don't think it's fair to give that to you unless you want to pay extra for it. So over there, Reb Shimon ben Gamliel says that you have to give it to him, and I don't think you pass on it. The Raya Acharona was, we also had that. It's in I think we also had that as well. And that is, if the Torah is over already, and then you bring a raya, it's too late to bring the raya. You can only bring your rayas while the Torah is still going on. Rafuna said, Hilveyu. The Arev said, Hilveyu, lend Shimon money, Vani Arev, and I will be an Arev. Or Hilveyu, lend him money, Vani Peireya, and I will pay it. Or Hilveyu, lend him money, Vani Chayiv, and I will be chayiv, or v'hilveyu v'ani etin. All of these expressions, kulon loshen arvis. They're all a loshen arvis and not a loshen of kalun. Zokt the Rashbam, why is that? The haloshen halva kamar. He kept saying hilveyu. Hilveyu means hu ye aloiva. Lend him money, meaning he is the loiva. V'ani peireya im lo yifrelach. That is arevis. What about tein loy? Give him v'ani kabun. Tein loy, give him vani pereya, or tein loy vani chayiv, or tein loy vani etein. This set of expressions, kulon lashon kablana, saying, as the Rashbam says, Teinloi misor hamomen biyadoi, but va'aniya for enula. So there, ein kan lashon halva. He didn't mention anything about a halva. Ela shluchuse the haidika amar teinloi abid malva. The malva saying teinloi, give it to him as my shlichus, but I'm the one who's going to be responsible for it. Kabbalah. Iboilu. What about if he said hilveyu vani kablum? So he's using contradictory terms. Or tenloi vani arev. What would be the halacha mai? Rabbi Yitzchak, lashon arvus, lashon kablonus. What does that mean, Dr. Rashbam? Loishna ka'amar hilveyu, v'loishna ka'amar tenloi. If there's a lashon of arvus mentioned, we always say he's an arev, and since he says vani arev, that's what it is. And lashon kablonus, the kablonus. Okay. No. Kulon lashon kablonusin. We consider all of these expressions a lashon of kablonus bar mehelveyu bani arev. Unless he used the word hilveyu bani arev, which is pure arevus, we assume that it's kablonus. Zokter Ashbam. Lashon kablonusin. Vafilu tein lai bani arev, or it's a mixed term. Afilu hilveyu bani pareya or hilveyu bani chayiv. Hilveyu bani neiselach. They're all a lashon of kablonus except mehelveyu bani arev. The kibbutz and nok at lashon alva v'lashon arvus. He doubles down on the lashon of arvus. Oz moitzi michlal kablonus. Rav Amar kulan lashon arevus in the opposite direction. They're all automatically a lashon of arevus bar mitain loy vani noisin, where there's no mention of arevus at all. Zok Rashbam. Rav Amar kulan lashon arevus in afilu hilveyu vani kablon or tain loy vani pereya or tain loy vani chayiv. They're all arevus. The mashmani ever bishviloi im lo yifrahu, which is all arevus, except for mitein loy v'ni yishalach v'choshkin tein loy v'ni kablan, because there's no mention of alvo at all. The kaim alone, who do we pass like? We pass like Rava the Basra. Rava was the latest who lived amongst these Amoraim, and therefore we pass like him. The davka ten loy v'ni noisen, there the shneim loshon matana mashma. They're both a lashon of kablan. What does the base say? What does the Bach say by the base? Umashma kablonus. So they're both mashma kablonus. So ba'oisha lashon setziveyu limtzar lozeh kibul olav lepoyri. In the same lashon with which he commanded or instructed the malva to give the money over, he was makabel on himself to pay. The mashma keilu kibel hu atzman miyara malva. It's mashma that he is accepting the responsibility directly from the malva. But by arvus we know lo yifra min arv tkila elam min aloiva. The kabalonis me'ezu sheyirtza yifra karabanan demasnisin. What's the nafkamina if it's kabalonis or arvus? Of course, who the malva has to approach first. Avalam nosov and nosim biyad ein lemalva ahaloiva klum, like we learned a moment ago in Tosfos. Okay, Gabaltik. Amalimar Bara Memar Luravashi. Hachi Amar. Did I skip something? Okay. Hachi Amar Abba. This is what my father told me. I guess it was a Memar. Tain loy vani noisen ein lemalva ala loiva klum. The malva has nothing with the loiva. He only has with the earth or with the kabbalah. But the loy, it's not true. Loy mifter loiva min the malva at sheyisa v'yitin biyad. The truth is, the only time the loiva gets completely cut out of this transaction is if the Arev actually took the money from the malva and the Arev gave it to the loiva. And as we learned to Tosfos, even though he's not completely cut out of the deal, because you still have shivuda to have noshma. Zok tehela gigamar. Ahuda yona, the achse lemalva the nichse the loiva mikama the litve leloiva. So I think this loiva should read the Arev. If you look at the Gimel in the Tziyonim, I believe it says the Arev. Where's my Tziyonim? Oh no, I forgot it. He says the Arev. Where is it? That? Oh no, I'm sorry. They read up from the Marshal that is loiva. So there's a dayan that allowed the malva to collect from the loiva even before even before he collected from the loiva. What does this mean? What does this mean? Zok to Gemara. Before he actually approached the loiva. So Salkua Rav Chanin Bared Ravim. So I think it means the Malva is supposed to go to the loiva. So I'm not sure what it means to come living. I forgot what that meant.
He didn't want the money. Yeah, but I think
what do you mean you didn't want the money?
He didn't go to the loiva and say you owe me money.
Before going to be went straight and took his nechosim. That's right. Right. That's what I mean. That's right. He let him start liquidating his properties before they even had a discussion. Maybe the loiva will come up with the cash. Mekama the lid for the loiva. Thank you. So Solke Rab Chanin Barei Rab Yeva. Rab Chanin said, "Get off. You're not allowed to just take away his property. First, you have to deal with him." Amarava Man Chachim Lemevet Kihai Milsa. Who would be so smart to understand to do this? Ilav Rab Chanin Barei Rab Yeva, if not for Rab Chanin. Why? Because Kosovar Nichse Devar Inish Inun Ma'arvin Yosy. The nechosim of a person are an Arev for him. And we know before you can go to the Arev, meaning his nechosim, which act as his Arev, you first have to approach him. And his properties only act as an Arev. Which cannot be learned, Hamalvas Chavar the Arev, Lo Yifram in the Arev, you don't collect from the Arev. The Kaimalon, what does it mean? Lo Yitfa Arev Tchila. So therefore, you don't have a right to go and just start taking the karkoyas of the loiva because they're in the second position. They only act as an Arev. But first, it would be incumbent on you to summon the loiva to the entire and try to get it out of the loiva. Zok to Rashbam. We have to ask Mr. Sachachevsky. He'll tell us all the halachas. He's a baki. The mumchen these halachas. There was a big scandal in the shul once upon a time where Mr. Sachachevsky used to lend a lot of people money, and he used to often require an Arev. And sure enough, once a person defaulted, and he went after the Arev, and the Rav Paskin that the Arev doesn't have to pay. We're going to see the Maskana of the Gemara, and he was very not happy about it. Moshe Weisbaum, which you told me the story, when Moshe Weisbaum went to Mr. Sachachevsky to borrow money for his first house, he was so grateful to Mr. Sachachevsky for lending him the money. And Mr. Sachachevsky took out a book, a ledger, to record the loan. So he told, Mr. Sachachevsky, with this book, you're going to get into Gan Eden. So Mr. Sachachevsky told him, with this book is not going to get into Gan Eden. And he went and pulled out a book that was 3 times the size. He says, from this book, I'm going to go into Gan Eden. So Weisbaum asked him, so what is this book? He says, this is the book of the non-payers. I put you into the book of the payers. See that you remain in the book of the payers, not in the book of the non-payers. So Zok the Heilige Rashbam on the first intermediate line, the Kaimalon lo yitfa with the Arev Tchila, a nochain la triach es Arev China. You shouldn't approach and bother the Arev for nothing. Dil mamav tzilei loiva. Maybe the loiva will pay. The nechasim of a person are his Arev. Loman and zalzal b'nechasov. Lahayid bahen is hamalva chinam. Why would we just let the malva go there if the malva didn't first approach the loiva? Shemi salkenu loiva b'mois. Maybe the loiva will have the cash to pay him off. V'lo yitztar chalerid b'nechasov. Zok to Gemara weiter. Hahu arva de yasmi. There was once an Arev of Yosoymim, which means he signed on a choiv that the father, the deceased, was a loiva on. Zok to Rashbam aviyam lova b'chayav. The father, the deceased, was the one who borrowed money, and during the father's lifetime, when the father borrowed the money, v'zeh nasa Arev l'malva b'shvila. And this person, let's call him Ruvain, decided to be the Arev. And as soon as this man died, he didn't wait for the malva to come to the estate and demand payment. He right away paid off the debt. He paid from his own money before there was even a chance to be toivedim. He wanted to protect them. And now, later on, the dust settled. He's coming back to the Yosoymim and he's telling them, you need to pay me back because I paid off the choy that your father owed. Huh? He was a tzaddik, but he wanted to take care of it. But what happened is when the loiva died, the malva almost had a heart attack. So he quickly paid up so that the malva shouldn't have a heart attack. So he was a tzaddik. But eventually he wanted to get paid back. So whoever the Yasmi the parallel malva, mekama duludinu liyasmi. Before the Yisraelim were even aware of it. Now the question is, do the Yisraelim have to pay him back? Omar Papa, Friyas B'chayv is a mitzvah. And these are minors. The Yasmi Lav b'nei me'avid mitzvah. So you cannot collect from the Yisraelim. When they become adults and they become b'chuyv and mitzvahs, only then can you go back to collect from them. But it's important to point out, as the Rashbam does, Priz B'chayv mitzvah, Arev ata nasamuch. Now the Arev is the B'chayv. He's the Malva. And it's a milval pehu, because there's no star written for this halva. U'mitzvah l'poyreh. So therefore, there's no chiyuv to pay. The nechasim of the deceased are not meshubit, but there's a plain mitzvah for Yisraelim to pay off the chayiv of their father. But v'im Yisraelim pchusim miyud gimel, the lav b'nei mevid mitzvah, the Yisraelim are less than 13. Therefore, v'chigadli l'shtoi dina b'adai. When they become adults, then you can collect from them. So that is what Rav Papa passes. But Rav Huna Barej Rabbi Yeshua Amar, there's no such thing as priest b'chayv mitzvah. In fact, if they owed money, even though they were minors, we would still collect from them. But here there's a real chance that maybe he doesn't owe money. You know why? Emar Tzrori Atfasing. How do you know that the deceased, the loiva, didn't actually pay off already with cash? You didn't look into it. You had a knee-jerk reaction and you went to pay it. But you didn't verify that the malva wasn't paid already. So if we knew for a fact that the malva the loiva still owed the money, sure you would be able to collect from the Yisraelim, even though they're katanim. Because we say even a katan has to pay back the chayv of their father. But here there's a legitimate concern that maybe the father had already paid and the loiva never needed to pay. Let's have a look at the Rashbam. Of course, they have a chiv to do mitzvahs. The Gemara says if the Yisraelim don't pay back their father's chayvus and they're eating what's not theirs, let them also drop dead, just like their father dropped dead, because they're not paying. You know why? That they don't pay back now? Because they don't know yet how to taina. At the godly v'yad litoin, the lachse achadinim and represent themselves, an advocate in their behalf. Dikal meimar, aimer tzrori atvasei aviyim l'malva b'chayav lifter his. Maybe the father had already taken care of those debts. V'hilchach al milva al peh ikal mechesh dilma par avum b'chayav. A milva b'shtar, you don't say that. G'shtar chabiyatim maboy. But it was a milva al peh. Maybe the father took care of it. The aval gav. The kaimalo, the kamon b'pirkin, milva peh, goyim in the ocean. So l'maisa to milva peh, let it be goyim from the ocean. Hanamili, that's only if we know for a fact that the father didn't pay. For instance, at the time of his death, nisham tuhu umis b'shamte. He was in cherem for not paying back, and he died in cherem. So obviously he never paid back. Otherwise, they would have reversed the cherem. Inami kishachayiv moida. Or if the malva said before he died, I have not yet paid back. Upaskin l'kamon. We don't say that Yisraelim don't have to pay back because they don't have to do mitzvahs. Rather, as long as we know that this was not paid yet, even if we don't specifically know whether or not the chiv was there, but the father before he died said tenu, give it to the loiva. I owe the money. I'm sorry, give it to the malva. I owe it. Noisnin, you pay kedebaskinin be'erchen. The ein mamtinin adagodli. You don't wait until they become adults. So that's an important halacha. Okay. Gewaltig. Now the Rashbam also says another very important thing. So I'm going to skip a couple of lines to where the Rashbam says, "V'chal hani gviyasan makarki diasmi." Whatever we're discussing here is only collecting from karka that belonged to the father that now the Yisayim yashin, because the karka of Yisayim are meshubed to the Bachoiv, but not metaltlim. Zokter Rashbam v'nir be'inai the bisman hazeh in modern times, such as the 1400s, when the Rashbam lived, the lekem akarki kolkach, where not the economy was no longer land-based. People had other assets, even though they weren't farmland. Afagav the kaimelon metaltali they asked me loy mishtabdi l'balchoiv, even though up until this date there was this rule that metaltali they asked me loy mishtabdi l'balchoiv bisman hazeh. Nowadays, dinam ligvois metaltli the shavak lanavuin. So the Rashbam is in innovating this, adapting on his own. It's a new thing now. Up until now, only land was meshubed. Zok the Rashbam. Now we're in a different world. We're in a new society. And things are different nowadays. And even metaltli the asmi are mishtabdi. It's a big chiddush that the Rashbam is taken upon his own shoulders. Kamoisha tikna ga'oinim. Zok the Rashbam. I'm not a trailblazer. We have already seen this concept because the Geoinim were already misakim, the Ksubas Isha, the Baskinin Hilchasam in Mekarkin, Metaltli, a woman could only collect from Karkin, not from Metaltlin, Vafilochi, nevertheless, the Geoinim already established, Nahagul Ligvais Metaltli, we allow the woman, the Almana, to collect from the Metaltlin of the Yisayim. Maybe any Raya, any Berais, but whatever the case is, that's the Chiddush of the Rashbam, that nowadays, where we're not an agricultural society, even the Talton of the Yisayim are meshubed to pay apachayt. A very big chiddush. Zog to Gemara. So let's go on to the days. My binayu. What's the difference in halacha if the reason why the Yisayim don't have to pay is because they're minors and they don't have chiv to do mitzvahs yet, or if the reason why they don't have to pay is because we're legitimately concerned maybe the chayvos are paid already. Either if the loiva right before he died said, I still owe the money. According to the first shot, the Yisayim still don't have to pay. They're minors until they become adults. According to the second shot, according to Rav Yeshua, they would pay. Inami desham tu umeis b'shamte, like the Rashbam already taught us. He was put into chayim, the father, for not paying, and he died in chayim, meaning he surely hasn't paid yet. Sholchum utam, they sent from Eretz Yisrael. What happened? Shamtua umeis b'shamte. In that case, Hilchazak Arfuna B'Rei Yeshua, and therefore we would force the Yisayim to pay. We won't say the Yisayim don't have to pay because they're still minors. Rather, we make them pay. So we see that we pass like Arfuna B'Rei Yeshua. May say the Gemara had a kasha. Arev shahoyo shtar choiv yoytzu mitachas yadav. An Arev who had a shtar choiv in his hand, meaning he already paid, so now he has the shtar choiv that the malva is surrendered to him. Eino goiva, he cannot collect. But the imkosav boy his kabalti mimcha. But if the malva wrote in the shtar, at least this is how the Rashbam learns, that I was makabel the money from you, then goiva, then you can collect from the estate. So let's see the Rashbam. Hilchazak Arfuna B'Rei Rabbi Yeshua the govern miyasmi v'le'amrinun yasmi lav b'nei mi'avid mitzvaninu hilchazak Arshinin v'loy Arshinin v'hilchazak hayoytu mitachas shidei Arev. So now the Arev has already paid the Malva, and the Malva surrendered the shtar to the Arev. And now he's collecting from the Yisayim. The Amar, and he tells them, Parati chayv shalavichem, and I can prove it to you that I paid the chayv of your father, because Vashtar Machiach. You see, the Malva surrendered the shtar to me, Sharayach Ziru li HaMalva. Nevertheless, a negoiva at the godly yasmi, until the Yisayim will become adults, umishtoy dina badayu, and then they can defend themselves. But Oz Yishba, there the Arev will have to swear that he paid, but Yifrim Ehen, and he can collect from them Kedin Habali Porem Nichsa Yisayim. But Vim Kozaboy, Hamalva, if the Malva wrote, his Kabalti Mimcham in the Arev, if the Malva writes there that I was Makabal from the Arev, then he's Nemon. Zokt Gemara, Bishlam al Rav Huna B'Rei Rabbi Yeshua. I understand how to interpret this halacha. According to Rav Huna B'Rei Rabbi Yeshua, where it's merely a question of proof, so Mishkachas La Kishachayiv Maida. If the Chayiv was Maida, there I could collect from the Yisayim now as minors. El Rav Papa that no matter what, even if we know for sure he's Mechuyev, the minor doesn't have to pay. So why would the minor have to pay in this case? So it would be Shver Kasha. After the Gemara is trying Hasam, the Lahachi, Tarach, the cause of his Kabalti, since the Malva wrote his Kabalti, that's Mechayiv them. Sagt der Rashbam, the Logi Koslas Kabalti, that the Arev Muchzik Bishtar Sheyesh Loy Aleim, V'le Chashiva Mil Valpeh. By the Malva writing his Kabalti, that makes this liability that now the children owe him as it makes it into a Milva Bishtar. Uve Milva Bishtar, Moidir Papa, the Gavidim Yasmin. When it's Halvo Bishtar, there everybody agrees that even children have to pay. It's not a mitzvah over here for the children to pay back, because if it was a mitzvah, they can wait till they're adults. Once there's a star, it's a choiv. Choiv they have to pay back, even though they're still minors. When we tell us now, Toysha doesn't understand. How does the Malva writing his Kabalti to the Arev make it a Milva Bishtar to the children? Where's the connection there? So therefore, Toysha learns the his Kabalti is if the father originally wrote in a star to the Arev his Kabalti, which basically he's saying, I was makabel money from you directly, which means there's a star from the original loiva to the Arev, that makes it into a milva b'star, and that's when they can collect. But the Rishbam doesn't learn like that. The Rishbam learns even if the Malva wrote his Kabalti after the Arev paid him, that will also make the relationship between him and the children into a milva b'star. Kabalti. Who Arva, once upon a time, there was an Arev, the Ovid Kachavim. So in this case, the Malva wasn't another Jew, rather the Malva was a Goy. So Reuven wanted to borrow money from John, and Shimon signed on as an Arev to John. And what happened is the Arev went right after Reuven died, and he paid off John. The Pari law Ovid Kachavim Mekama de Litfinal Yasmi. Before John even approached the Yosymim to collect on the chayiv that their father owed. Omer le Rav Mordechai le Ravashi. So Rav Mordechai told Ravashi, Hachi Amar Avimai meHagrunya Mishmeda Rava. This is what Avimai from Agrunya said. The Psak Haloch is in the name of Rava. Afilu Lamanda Amar Chashin L'Tzrari. Even if normally the Arev doesn't have to be repaid. Why? Because maybe the father had already paid. Hanimili Yisrael. That would apply if the Malva was a Yid. Avol Ovid Kachavim. But if the Malva is a Goy, even the Basra Arva also, you know what a Goy who's an Arev does? Even if he was already paid by the father, he would still go after the Arev, who wouldn't be aware of that. So therefore, he could go back and collect from the estate. Let's see the Rashbam. The Rashbam says, that's only if the Malva was a Yid. Because the Loiva has to pay the Malva directly. The Malva will not go to the Arev. But if the Malva is a Goy, the Loiva would never have paid the Goy. You know why? Because the Goy would have come to collect from the Arev anyway. So therefore, you can't tell me, children, that you don't have to pay me because maybe my father paid. For sure my father didn't pay, because my father knew that the Malva, who's the Goy, would collect from the Arev anyway. So he wouldn't have paid because he knows otherwise it would have made that he would have had to pay twice. So therefore, here, like Hashim Latroy, and therefore the Arev can go back and collect from these. I'm sorry? That's correct, because he knew that the Goy was going to come and collect from the Arev anyway. Amalei Adrab, he says, no, I would actually use these same facts, but interpret them differently, come to a different conclusion. Even according to the Mandamar, that you're not choshish, and normally an Arev can go and collect from the Yisraelim, Hanamil Yisrael. That's only if the Malva was a Yid. If the Malva was a Goy, even the Dinayu Basar Arva Asli, right at the beginning of the Sukkah, we said the Din of Parsoy is that you can go straight to the Arev. Ilav the Atasli Tzrari Meikara Loy Hava Makabale. The Arev knows that he's very, very exposed when he signs on an Arevos when the Goy is a Malva. So the Arev would never have signed unless he saw before he signed that the loiva told the malva, I have money here put away for you. I have metal here put away for you, just in case you can't find money, you have where to collect from. So for sure that must have happened, because who in their right mind, which Arev would have signed if he knows he's gonna be demanded money from anyway? So therefore, we assume for sure it was adversary, and therefore the Arev cannot turn around and collect from these items.
Well, actually, sorry, was paying the Malva, right?
Correct.
And I was thinking the Arev.
No, love after. You could be paying the malva. I'm sorry. The archbishop means paying the Arev. Oh, okay, so it's a nice time corrected. I was actually mesupik because even before I'm mesupik if it means paying the malva or the Arev, because if you look at the loshin of the Rashbam in Rav Huna bar Yeshua, where he says maybe Tzor Atzvasa, if you look at the transition between the intermediate lines, it says the Ikal Meimar Eimur Tzrori Atzvasa Avim Lemalva B'Chayav Lifter Sa'arev. Oh no, so it says Beferish Lamalva. But over here the Arev would never have signed unless the father prepared some type of money for the Arev. Yeah, here the Gvaltik. Okay, Zok to Gemara weiter. Let's see the Rashbam said. Bikar Kishanasa Yudi Arev La'Ovid Kachavim Ilav Sorry Atvis Arev. You're right. The Rashbam says Beferish over here. There he says to the Bava. Here he says to the Arev. So thank you for pointing that out. Ilav Sorry Atvis Arev. If the Arev didn't have somewhere to collect from, Loy have a makabel likonis ba'arvis shareza yodea bavadai. The Arev knows for sure. Shehaovid Kachavim Yachzor Allah v'Loy Allah Loiva. He knows he's going to come straight to him. Because there's a strong chance, in fact, that the Arev had been prepaid. Okay, so to Gemara weiter. And we're afraid that there's going to be a scam, so therefore we make the husband noider enough from the wife. Moshe bar Atri, Moshe the son of Atri, or he was an Atri, maybe he was a presser. Arva, look at that, he's the first case of a presser in the Gemara. Malti, you found yourself a presser. Moshe bar Atri, Arva, the Ksubasa, the Kalsehab. He was the Arev for his son, which is a very typical thing. He was the Arev for his son. Who was his son? Rav Huna Barei. But he happened to have been a Tzurva Merabonim. Rav Huna, the son of Moshe bar Atri, was a Tzurva Merabonim. There's no time to go through it now, but there's a beautiful raid bite that points out that this is the only time in the Torah, in the Gemara, you find that Tana is named Moshe. It's a little strange. Today, every Tom, Dick, and Harry is named Moshe. But you never, ever find that somebody was named Moshe. You very rarely find that somebody in the Gemara or in the Mishnah was called Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov. All the common names that we use nowadays, for some reason, they never used the name Moshe. This is the only place found. So in the Raid Bites, Borchi goes through a whole discussion of the origin of the name Moshe. And there's a discussion where the name Moshe came from. Because he brings down from, I think it's a Pirkei Belazar, that Moshe's name at his bris was not Moshe. And from the Pasuk, it's mashma that she named him Moshe, Baspari Kimina Maya Mishisu. So he has a whole stickle, and he brings there that there's one of two names was the name of Moshe that he got by his bris for Koresh Yisrael. Either Toiv, that's one of his names, that wasn't one of the names given to him by his bris. It's either Toiv or it's Yukasiel. Those are the two names that he got by his bris, and all these other names are extra names. And the word Moshe is Kiminayim Shishu. So they ask, the Chazal ask, why is it that of all the names he had, why did the name Moshe stick? Why is the name Moshe the name that HaKadosh Baruch Hu decided to call him, even though that wasn't really the name that was given to him by his bris? So he says because the name Moshe is about Chesed. Minamayim Shishu is a Chesed that Bas Paroi did, and that is the highest name from Sheish Shmei Bereshis. That was really going to be his name, but that was such a high level name that even his parents weren't zoicha to think of that name. It was only Bas Paroi, and her name stuck because that's the name that was based on Chesed. He has a beautiful shtickle on it, highly recommended. But we're at 6:49, so I have to move on. So Moshe bar Atri Arva de Ksubasa de Chalsehava. Rav Huna Barei was a Truva Midrabanan. Udchikla Milsa, and Rav Huna didn't have money. So Amar Abaye told him, let's pull the scam as mentioned in the Mishnah. Leka, the nasal, the nasve, it's Rav Huna. Is there anybody who won't tell Rav Huna a great idea? The nigrishalat visu, let him divorce his wife. Then v'sezel v'sigzvik fuba ksuba me'avua. She'll go to her shver Moshe, and she'll collect the ksuba from him because he was the Arev Kablan. V'hadun hadra, and then let Rav Huna remarry his wife. Pull the scam on his father. Amalei Rava, that won't work because v'hoyadi rena hana. If he tries doing that, he has to be mader hana, so he can't live with her anymore. Tanan is what it says in the Mishnah. Amalei Abaye, Otu called the Megarish, the Megarish. Who said that he did this get and Besdin? Let him give her a get out of Besdin, and there'll be no one to demand this of them. And then he'll just go to his father, and she'll cry to the father, and the father's going to give her the money. It turned out that he was a kohen, so this whole plan won't work. Anyway, Amar Abaye, Hainu the Amar Inshi, Basra Aniya, Atlan Yusa, an Oishrat Mazel, and then Automad, he can't even pull a scam like this because it won't work for him. The rich get richer and the poor get poorer. Umiyamar Abaye Hagi. Did Abaye actually make such a suggestion? It sounds like it's a little bit underhanded to suggest such a scam. Amar Abaye Ezeu Rosh Orim Zehamasi Eitza Limkar B'Nechasim Kirab Shimon Ben Gamliel. If you remember, the case was when someone said, I want my Nechasim to go to Pliny, and after Pliny to go to Pliny. So if the first Pliny would sell all the Nechasim, nothing will go to the third guy. So even though technically it works, a Rosh Ha'arim is someone who gives someone an Eitzah to mess up the original intent of the original giver, even though it's legit. So this is similar. Abaye is trying to, he's not benefiting from it. He's giving Rav Huna an Eitzah how to take advantage of his father. Zok Gemara Benoi Shiny. For our third party Arev, yes, it's not a nice thing to do. But a father is different. The father wants to help out his son. And with Tzurva Merabanan Shiny. And Rav Huna was a Tzurva Merabanan, so for sure his father wanted to help him out. Frank Gemara, the Arev who Aiz Arev, a Kaimelon, Arev the Ksuba Loy Mishtabit. An Arev on a Ksuba, we're going to learn soon, doesn't mean anything at all. Because the guy who signed on as an Arev never ever meant to accept upon him any type of a price. He's just signing because he wants to make the chasna go. He wants the shidduch to work out. But he's not really accepting upon himself any achrayas, meaning it's just a formality. Zoktamar Kabul Haba. In the case of Moshe Bar Acher, the father of Rav Huna, he was a kabbalah. It wasn't just a regular Arev. Zoktamar Hanicha Lamanda Amar Kabul Duksuba. Avagav the Lesle Nichse Labal Mishtabit Shapir. If you hold that someone who is an Arev Kabbalah on behalf of the husband, and we know the husband doesn't have a penny to his name, we still say that he's sincere and it's a real Kabbalah Sachrayis, then this would make sense. When does the Kabbalah really accept upon himself Arevis? That's only if he knows that the Chassan whom he's representing, who he's backing up, is a rich guy. But if he knows the Chassan doesn't have a penny to his name, even an Arev Kabbalah didn't mean to accept anything. So Michael, remember, how will this work? Maybe Rav Huna was wealthy when he got married. So his father was a problem of Kabbalah and accepted a price. But then Rav Huna lost his money. We're talking about a father. A father will be mishabed himself for his son no matter what. Ditma we learned, Arev the Ksuba, Divrei HaKoil, Loy Mishtabed. It's a formality. And of course he wasn't really accepting a price. Kabbalah the Bachoiv, a Kabbalah of a Bachoiv, Divrei HaKol Mishtabed. On the other extreme, a Kabbalah of a regular loan, that's serious. For sure he was mishabed himself. You know where there's the gray area? Kabbalah the Ksuba, or a regular Arev the Bachoiv, pligi. Mar Savar, one man never holds, the Islay Nichse Loiva Mishtabed. If the Loiva has money, only then will the Kabbalah really mean to be Mechayiv himself. Yilesle Loy Mishtabed. Mr. Sakachowski didn't like this Gemara because it's saying an Arev of a Chayiv is not Mechayiv himself if there's no money at the Loiva. Umar Savar Bein Islay, well then Lesle Mishtabed, the Arev is accepting upon himself. The Hilchasa, and the Allah is looking at the base. The Hilchasa Bekulu Mishtabed, by all of them is Mishtabed, Bar Me Arev the Ksuba, except for Arev the Ksuba, where he is not Mishtabed himself. The Alvagav the Islay Labal, even if the husband has money, Still loy mishtabed. It's merely a formality. My taima mitzvah avad v'lavidi chasra. Technically, I'm not hurting her. If it's a loan and you gave this loiva money, by me signing, if it's false, if I'm not really accepting the price, I'm causing you to lose money. But she never spent any money. She never let money. This is going to be a windfall for her to tshuva. So she's not losing money. So therefore, he's not really being mechayiv himself. So it's just a formality, but it's not really a kabbalah sachrayis. Doesn't that make you feel better, Mati? How many sons did you marry off? Look at that. And you were the Arev. So Amar Avuna, Shchivmara shehikdish kol nechasim. What if a Shchivmara was makdish all of his nechasim? And then the Amar Mana Loploni Biyadi. And then he said, oh, by the way, not all of this money is mine. I owe Reuven $10,000. So is that $10,000 protected from Hektish because it wasn't his? Or maybe you don't believe him. So the halacha is Neman. He's believed, and Hektish does not get that $10,000. Because Chazaka ain't Adam Oisa Kanunyal Hektish. We for sure know that he's not trying to make a trick on Hektish to retrieve money from Hektish. If he said Hektish is, if he says that this is loan, this is someone else's money, we trust him 100%. Okay, we'll stop here and we'll be mamshech tomorrow. This is a very serious thing. My wife told me she read in either one of the magazines, she read a story about a couple that got married, and the boys' side, the girls' side, mamish had no money to support. The mamish were poor; they couldn't support, and they told the shadchan to, if they're expecting anything, we're going to do what we could. We'll shop this and that, but we can't commit to any amount of money. And they do the shidduch, and they were very happy. No one complained. A month after their wedding, their daughter calls them and says that you're supposed to be paying half the rent. When are you giving us the money? So the mother, this came to the mother. The father's a very tough guy. He would have ripped a piece off of that shadchan. The mother says, really? And she called the shadchan, or she used to work in the same place. You read the story? And the shadchan said, did you tell them that we're paying half the rent? Well, I said that, of course, you're going to help, and yeah, they'll probably end up paying half the rent. You don't need to worry. So she said, how could you say that? We're not in the position to be able to pay this. And now you told them, you know what this is going to cost now? So the shadchan said, what do you want? I wanted to do the shidduch. That's why they say shadchan is Rosh Tevis, sheker doiver, kesev noitel. So I didn't say the end of the story, but imagine what that would cost. It's crazy.
Yes, the person who signs the ksuba, I just want to check. I think I know the answer.
Say that again.
The Eidik ksuba, they're not a raven, right?
No, they're not a raven. The Arev is usually the father. That's why the father picks up the yarmulke. He figures I owe the caterer so much money, another 20,000 won't matter anymore.
Where does it say? Oh, who assigns him as an Arev? The Rav says he calls him Arev.
The Rashiva tells the father, "Here, take my yarmulke, lift it up. Okay, now you're responsible."
Well, that's what we do for it.
What? You thought that yarmulke was light.
No, I thought that was for a Kenyan. I didn't realize that he becomes.
Yeah, it is a Kenyan. You're being Makabel Kenyan that you're accepting a Ravus.
Really?
That's why they try not to learn this Masechta before you marry off all your kids.
Shkoyach. Okay.